Well, welcome, by the way.
Thank you.
And the reason I invite you, not only, well, because I know you for a while. I know you when you were, I met you when you were about 25 or something,
Yeah. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but let's say it was like what 2006 or seven.
correct? Six,
So I was
seven.
probably like 27.
Okay, very well. And we have been in contact pretty much since then. And
Yeah.
yeah, and there is something that is really strike me from you is that is how clear you are about your path and how engaged you are in wanting to share what you know. And because now you're running for mayor, excites me because I don't know anything about politics. I'm just tired of it because politics seems to be more about some kind of ideology rather than really actually helping people. And you are in a position to be that person, in a way, kind of hoping that you run for something rather than against something.
Hmm.
And I think that's what we all need. If we start with the microcosm of families, we need to run for the family, not against someone in the family, if you will.
Sure.
So, but you know what? Let's just start from the beginning.
But
Where were
actually,
you born? Go
I'd
ahead.
love to comment on a couple of things you just said. It was just, I don't know, something about your word choice, though. You're really good at what you do, though, because you really make me think about some important things, um, in your word choice. So, like, first, in talking about just being clear about what I want, I really think that's a huge compliment because I don't know if I would describe myself in that way, but I definitely, have something within me where I feel like the right thing should be done. And I'm in a position where I feel like I can serve my community and, push the right things forward in the city of Hawthorne. And it's really been driven by that passion for service. Yeah, I use the analogy: if you're walking down the street and somebody falls down, you reach down and pick them up. It's just a natural kind of response, and that's kind of been my response and get involved in Hawthorne politics. And then when you talk about politics in general, about just the direction it's gone into, I find myself in between these two different ways of looking at politics: the traditional establishment kind of existing culture of politics, where a lot of games are played, and you're aligning with this person or that person, and people are really striving for their own self-preservation as a priority, right? And so I'm encountering that culture of politics, while I think I'm still, even though I'm 10 years in local politics at this point, I'm still seem to be green enough to say, hey, things should be different, and we should be in this to make an impact in the community, not for anything else, not for our own personal power, not for our own elevation, or not even. I just test this approach of doing something just because it's easy and just to kind of protect my safety, when that's not. I didn't get into this for those reasons. I got into it to advance progress and make an impact. And I would feel ashamed if I didn't pursue that path of fighting for what I think is the right thing to do, versus pursuing a path that's just kind of protecting what I currently have. But yeah, we can jump into my origin story also.
Well, but before we continue with that, what people sometimes don't realize is how tough it is to put oneself out there in the open in politics. I have the opportunity to coach a few politicians, and it's outrageous how people can just say whatever they want to say, negative about the other person, clearly knowing that it's not true, and be okay with it. And then, as they share with me, when they talk privately, they say, "Oh, this is not personal." I mean, it's absolutely crazy. How's that been with you?
It's so funny that's exactly what they say. It's not personal. They're just trying to play the game. They're just trying to win the competition. It's an approach that, to me, it feels like it's a lack of respect for the public by looking at opportunities to manipulate their perception to get them to move in one direction or another direction. But it's something that, although I've been around it for 10 years, it still shocks me. It's still uncomfortable when I experience it myself, because I've had this happen to me many times by individuals who see me as a threat or I might be running against, look to find narratives that they can place upon me to make me look bad, to deter support from me. And I've had some of these same people come up to me and say, "Hey, let's put that in the past. It's just don't it's nothing personal. We were just kind of on the opposite ends of that particular contest at the time. Let's work together." And I obviously can't trust somebody that behaves in that type of way. So I mean, it doesn't quite work for me. But yeah, I've encountered it many times. It's tough. And that's tough. And then it's tough when the people that you're trying to help are parroting some of these lies and attacking you with some of these same lies as well. And it is frustrating, though. But I can't say I have a answer to how to navigate all that. It's just kind of part of the experience.
Well, hopefully you don't get used to it, because if you do, you might be doing the same thing. And it's important for people to know these things, and that is a big reason why I wanted to speak with you and kind of help present a different way of doing business for the city. Because, like it or not, if people get to listen to actually the actions of people rather than this other stuff that speaks really poorly about the people that are doing it. And we want people who have integrity. At least I do. I'm tired of seeing or listening. I don't watch news anymore because it's just the same thing. I mean, so I just want to see people that have integrity and they'll have their priorities straight when they want to be a public servant, because that's what it is. You service in the public. You're not servicing yourself. So right there and then, it needs to be, the person needs to have certain kind of principles if they're going to represent me. So
one thing I found in this area is that it's a different skill set, governing versus campaigning. You can look at somebody's their approach, their personality, their skill set when they're holding an office, and might think that this person's not really that informed, or this person may not be that bright, this person may not whatever. And so it's easy to say, well, I can beat that person, I can be a better public servant than this person, and then choose to kind of run against them, run for that office. And then you find out that campaigning is a whole different game, is a whole different skill set, so many other different things that come into play. And you start to understand why certain people make it into office, because they don't necessarily make it into office because of their ability to govern, but they make it into office by their ability to campaign. And they may have some strategies that are effective, all right, in getting the most votes.
So let me ask you, people to get to know you, and also me, myself. I know you intimately in some ways, because so let me explain how did I get to meet you. I was the leadership director in a company that had trainings in Marina del Rey. So when I said intimately, is because I know your heart. That's how I know. Maybe the specifics of your life, I don't. So why don't you tell us where you're coming from, where were you born, how was you growing up?
Grew up here in Southern California my whole life, specifically in Compton as a child. And so I grew up in Compton, California for just most of my childhood, but I didn't really grow up in Compton. And the fact that I didn't go to school in Compton for most of my life. So a lot of my come from a relatively big family. Not necessarily my mom had a lot of children. She had four, but her mother had seven children. Six of them came here from Alabama, and many of my aunts have seven and nine children. So I have about 100 cousins that are in and
Mm.
around my age, and a lot of my first cousins are actually around my mom's age because she's the youngest of seven. And grew up in Compton as a kid. Went to elementary school there up until maybe about the second grade, and then started going to school outside of Compton. And we would move out of Compton. We lived with my grandmother. We'll move out of Compton to say Paramount or Long Beach. Then kind of move back in with my grandmother. Then move out again to say Bellflower, and then move back, and then maybe move to Cypress, and then move back. So I did a lot of moving as a child. I went to school mostly in my high school years in Bellflower and Cerritos. So I went to Bellflower High from seventh through really from I went to schools in Bellflower really from like fifth grade through 10th grade, and then went to Gar High and Cerritos. Me and my left the 12th grade year, graduated from school there. But oftentimes commuted back and forth between Compton and Cerritos, Compton to Bellflower, ride the bus an hour in the morning to go out there and hour back. I probably would have been described as a jock as a kid because I played sports year round. Played football from 7 to 17. Started playing golf in junior high school. I did it, little league baseball, swim lessons. My mom put us in horseback riding lessons, ice skating lessons as a kid, and so we definitely enjoyed sports and stayed busy. And I after high school, I always knew I wanted to go to college. My mom is a bookworm. She used to take us to the library every week because she would, read books voraciously herself. And when a lot of people watch TV in their pastime, she would read in her pastime.
Mm.
And so we would go to books all the time. And I really fell in love with learning in that experience. And I wouldn't read the same type of books that she would read. She would read maybe like novels. She has great vocabulary. My sister as well, really smart, great vocabulary, read a lot of novels. I would read all these how-to books, how to teach yourself, how to make paper airplanes or martial arts at home or hypnotism or learn about ancient Egypt. And so I would always find these specific bits of information I wanted to pursue, more knowledge about. And I would get all those books. I really, really, really fell in love with learning. My mom, one of her jobs through my childhood, she worked at USC as like an admin, and she would bring us to the campus, and even I think we went to like a football game or two. And I really fell in love with the idea of going to college at a young age, and fell in love with USC, and wasn't able to go there right after high school. I ended up going to junior college in my community, went to El Camino Junior College for 2.5 years, and was lucky enough to transfer to USC after that. Went to USC, graduated with my degree in business, and then kind of jumped into the kind of working world.
Wow, that's quite a life. So how was it? How was your experience? I mean, commuting, living in these different communities. How was it?
During the time, it just kind of was normal. As you get older, you kind of reflect and see how that, definitely wasn't a lot of stability in my childhood. In fact, that we moved a lot. One time I sat and really counted. I think we moved 12 times by the time I
Mm.
was 18, and I probably went to 13 different schools.
Oh, wow.
And this counts like elementary school, junior high school, and this also counts moving to, let's say, Bellflower and moving back. And it's two moves. So I probably moved 12 times before I turned 18 and went to 13 different schools. And it made it tougher to kind of build long-term friendships, as a youth. I remember when I was say 19 or 20, when I was in college, and I met this young woman. She was telling me about her best friend had been friends for 15 years. And I was just thinking, like, how is that possible? You're only 19. Like, that I just didn't make sense to me. But I wasn't. So that type of relationship building, I didn't do a lot of when I was young. And so it's definitely, in retrospect, I saw kind of the disadvantages of some of that instability. But as a kid, I enjoy my childhood. I grew up with my sister, who's a year younger than me. My brothers are 11 and 12 years older than me. I love them and appreciated being around them. I always made friends. I always played sports, so I seemed to kind of make friends just through playing sports. And I think, like all young people, have your ups and downs of adolescence. Uh,
Okay.
but I definitely appreciate that my mom stopped sending us to school in Compton, because at that time things were very, very different than they are now. And Compton still has some ways to go in as a city, its development. But at that time, I went to high school, elementary school, I guess in the 80s, high school in the 90s. And it was a lot of violence, a lot of gang activity. During those times, like, you couldn't wear certain jackets to school, couldn't wear, certain colored shoes to school. If you drove around the wrong color car, your car would have gotten shot at. Carjackings was a thing during that time.
Hmm.
And a lot of my cousins that grew up in Compton, you kind of got distracted by a lot of that lifestyle with gangs and violence and stuff like that. So I have a number of cousins that ended up, going to jail and getting in a lot of trouble in their youth. And I mean, there's no doubt that I would have been influenced by that environment if I would have spent most of my time, in Compton with the rest of my cousins. So, I definitely appreciate, two things about my mom. One, that she made it a point of me and my sister going to school outside of the neighborhood that we grew up in. So it gave me an opportunity to kind of just have some different exposure. But two, that she instilled the value of the education and achieving in school in me at a young age, where I always kind of pursued a lot of validation and getting good grades and being smart, and always knew I was going to go to college, and always had, dreams of doing something big from a young age. And that, so even though we had to move around for me to kind of be in some better environments, that definitely was a valuable part in setting my future.
Absolutely. And then you graduated, so I met you in 27. You were pretty successful then, or yeah. Then the market crashed, the whole economy crashed. So you lost everything.
I did.
First of all, how was it to lose everything you have? And then how was your process to rebuilding it?
It's like, again, one of those things where you look back on it and really appreciate that experience. In my 20s, I mean, as a young kid, I was obsessed with achieving some financial security, because there's definitely a lot of financial insecurity as a kid, and made a decision that I wanted to go into business and be an entrepreneur at a kind of young age. I studied business and went into business for myself, in my early 20s, worked in the financial services industry and dabbled a little bit in real estate. And the real estate market started to kind of take off. The economy was doing really well, and I was buying a lot of property and flipping real estate and investing in real estate and doing all this stuff. And my financial services business was doing really well. And I think, like any young person that's kind of flush with a little bit of cash that they never grew up with, even though I understood I need to have a budget, I need to save money, I need to be a good steward of my money, I still couldn't resist going out and spending money. And I remember, I got even though I had a really good income, my expenses got really, really high. I had multiple pieces of property. Not all of them had people in it, so I was paying for more than one house just out of pocket. I bought my mom a house, which I was really excited to do. And I had two brand new cars I bought a month apart, that I absolutely enjoyed driving. And I remember I got to a point in thinking, like, how do people only have one car? Like, it doesn't even make any sense, right? You get so used to stuff. And I would buy books a lot, and buy nice clothes and all that stuff, and definitely enjoyed that success. But during that time, one of the downfalls of, I guess, the way I looked at that experience is I really tied my sense of self-worth and my value into the things that I had and the amount of money that was in my bank account. that for me made me important or made me valuable or made me special. And so when the market crashed in 2008, I remember distinctly when that happened. I think it was like February 2008. The banks just stopped lending, and the real estate market just crashed. And of course, the stock market crashed. And it hurt my financial services and financial planning business. And of course, it hurt all my real estate transactions. I ended up losing, I don't know, I think I owned 10 pieces of property at that time. I ended up losing all the real estate that I owned. I either sold it or went to foreclosure. I lost both of my cars, lost my condo that I was living in, and then moving in with my uncle, and it was devastating.
Hmm.
It was devastating to my ego, my sense of self worth, and I really, at the time I wouldn't have described it this way, but looking back at it, I really fell into a sense of depression at that time. And it was really, really hard because I remember I couldn't get out of bed and get into my office before noon. Like where previously I'd be in my office by 9 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning every day, and we'll get up in the morning and work out and get in my office early and kind of pursue life. And at this time, I remember like in 2008, really 2008 to 2010, I was just in this funk where I couldn't get out of bed early if I wanted to, and couldn't get into the office before noon if I tried, and it was tough. And I honestly, I tell everybody it was our relationship and working with you that got me out of that funk, out of that experience. At one point, I had even the place I had my uncle. We had kind of moved out of that place, and I ended up moving in with my daughter's mom. I was paying the rent in her place. Of course, looking at taking care of my daughter during that time, and but I didn't have a place of my own. Didn't have a car of my own, and I went in and moved in with my daughter's mom for about 3 or 4 months. Slept on their couch, put
Hmm.
my stuff in storage, and was driving the car that I had bought for her. And at that time, you had invited me to support you in the training that you're doing, and then at that same time, you were providing coaching to all of us who were volunteering for that training. And it was that coaching that got me out of that depression, that got me out of that funk. Like I distinctly remember during that time, I would wake up every morning with all this noise in my head, and it just became just a normal noise. So it wasn't anything that I would have told anybody about, but it was just all this noise in my head. And one day after a session of working with you, I woke up that next morning, and all the noise had disappeared,
Hmm.
and all this creativity that I used to have started rushing into my brain, and I had all this new motivation to go out and pursue life, and then I was able to kind of turn things around from there when I moved out of my daughter's mom place, got me a place, and start kind of getting my life back together. But it was quite the experience, and but like I said, in retrospect, I appreciated that experience because it helped me to learn something really important, that the value that I bring to this world is not determined by the things that I have or the money in my bank account or the titles that I hold or the jobs that I have or any of that stuff. That I have a lot of intrinsic value, as a good person, who cares about people, who can add value to other people's lives in areas that has nothing to do with finances or material things. And that really kind of changed the way I interact with the world since then.
So I was going to ask you that question, and you cannot answer it before I ask it. But what is specifically, and you already said it, what specifically changed? Because you're coming from being, in a way, ego driven, your wealth and all that represented you. And obviously, like normal people, when we're represented by our wealth with somehow some insecurities, we're trying to negotiate with kind of a coping mechanism for your insecurities. But what was the biggest lesson from coming out from there? Also, I mean, you mentioned that it's understanding that your value is not necessarily what you have, but what other lessons you learn from there that make you who you are today?
I mean, that whole experience really let me know that I'm enough who I am as is. And so I think I was in the past dealing with a belief that I wasn't enough and I needed these things to be enough and to be valued and be valuable and for people to like me. And during that process, I made friends that
Mm.
people, despite not having the money that I had, people still cared about me and people still looked after me and helped me in different ways I needed help or was in a, different assistance for me. And I was able to realize that like my interpersonal relationships didn't what wasn't hurt with me not having any money. Like I still built relationships. I still had friends. I still dated. Uh, I still had family around. None of my family members said anything crazy to me or looked down upon me or treated me poorly. All these different fears that you have when hey, I'm not a big shot anymore and what people are going to say and do. And none of that stuff happened. Like I said, matter of fact, like my social life had no impact. Like I still had friends and colleagues still support me and all that stuff. And so that really was the lesson that that I'm enough as I am, and that I have ways to add value to the world, and that I have a capacity to create my life. So even though I had lost some things, that wasn't a permanent experience, right? That wasn't a commentary of who I was or what my abilities were. It's just something that happened, and I get to kind of move on to the what's happening now and go
Mm.
create something that's happening now. And none of that stuff it was very very conscious, but it was really after I kind of got out of the funk, I started to, like I said, have all this creativity and motivation to pursue the things that I wanted again. And I was able to see that I had the ability to create, I had the ability to go ahead and make the things happen that I want to make happen. So regardless of what I had wasn't relevant anymore.
Mm.
Is who I was. I had there was value in who I was, and I go ahead and kind of pursue life based upon just bringing me to the table.
Well, great. And you start to reveal your wealth, if you will, getting some success. But then you decide to run for some kind of office in Hawthorne. What made you even contemplate that idea?
It's funny. I was still rebuilding myself at that time. So I was in 2013. So I lost everything in 2008 and started to get out of that funk in 2010. And so still was 2013 when I got elected. So it was 2012, maybe beginning of 2013 when I made that decision. So I was still kind of rebuilding my life. I was in the process of going back to school to get my master's degree. I had moved to back to Hawthorne to look after my uncle. My uncle was recovering from prostate cancer. And I thought it was an opportunity for me to kind of cut my expenses a little bit, finish my master's degree, help out my uncle. And I keep going back to my uncle, and I just want to make a little caveat. Like my uncle was, the closest to like kind of a father figure for me growing up as a kid. Like the reason why I was able to have ice skating lessons and horseback riding lessons and all those different extracurricular activities when I was a kid was because of my uncle. My uncle's
Mm.
looked after my mom's whole life. Every car my mom's owned, my uncle's given to her. And my uncle was Santa Claus at every Christmas and brought all the toys. And
Mm.
so I can't not be there for my uncle.
Mm.
And so, my uncle, needed a little bit of support, a little bit of assistance. And, so it was a great opportunity for both of us for me to provide some support for him, cut some of my expenses as well, and, finish my master's and all that stuff. And I started to, I told myself I wanted to get involved in the community. And really it was from a perspective of business, right? I wanted to build some relationships from a business perspective and I'm rebuilding my financial services business at the time. And something really interesting happened around that time because I had never had a real desire for politics. Even though I had some people mention it to me over the years that I should look into politics. So it was kind of in the back of my mind of something to look into one day. But I didn't have any kind of background in it. I didn't have any relationships in the industry. I never worked in government or worked with a politician. But it was I think it was things like New Year's Eve 2020, 2012. So like December 31st, December 30th, 2012, my cousin passed away, and he passed away from cancer. It was just a good guy, right? Real sweet man. And it was something to do with his passing that made me make some new decisions to start pursuing all the things that I wanted to pursue in life. At that time, it was a lot of, hey, I have a lot of things I would love to do, but let me prioritize it. Let me do these things first. And later on, I'll get to these other things. And one day I'll look into this thing about called politics. And one day I'll look into traveling. And one day I'll look into, but right now I'm sacrificing, I'm pursuing these practical things. And I made a decision like to start pursuing all the things that I wanted to pursue and really be open, a lot more open to life. And so coming back from the funeral, I mentioned to my uncle that, I want to look into this thing called politics. I know you mentioned, some people that are involved in the community of Hawthorne. If you can introduce me, that'd be great. And literally, like, he stopped, I think on the way home, he stopped and introduced me to somebody who was very involved in the community. And they say, hey, well, I'll take you under my wing and help you if this is something that you're interested in. And they encouraged me to start going to city council meetings as a way to kind of get started. And that's really what did it, was going to city council meetings that made me say, like, this is something for me to pursue. I saw that all these really monumental decisions that affect my city, that affect the community, were being made at these council meetings by these council members, right? What businesses were to come into our city and what businesses were not to come into our city. How to spend the community's money in its budgetary process. What type of development should be allowed in the community and what will it look like? And I looked at the council and I didn't see anybody with my skill set. I didn't see anybody who had a background in business the way I do, or a background in understanding of real estate the way that I do. And or even an understanding of just really leadership and organizational development. And I saw that there was a space for me to add value, and that I really saw myself being able to help move my city forward. And so I decided early in that year in 2013 that I was going to run for city council. And as the time got closer to kind of making that decision and filling out the paperwork, on the ballot, I'll be honest with you, I got scared and was intimidated by the process because it's so scary. Somebody was telling me that I would have to raise and spend at least $30,000 on my campaign. And I was frightened just by that concept. It was like, where would I get $30,000 from to campaign? And I'm still kind of rebuilding my business and rebuilding, my own financial security. And I didn't know anybody, who would give me that type of money. And it was just insane. And so somebody suggested that, hey, since you have a background in finance as an investment advisor, maybe you should run for city treasurer first, as a stepping stone, maybe later running for city council. And it made all the sense in the world to me because, I love numbers, I love finance, I love investments. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity for me to add some value into the community. And that's what I did. I decided to run for city treasurer, and lo and behold, the community elected me.
And you serve as a treasurer for how many years?
For 7 years. So when I won my election in 2013, I actually beat the incumbent. He was a 10-year incumbent of the city. He had been a city treasurer for 10 years. And I won with about 57% of the vote. And then I ran for re-election in 2015, I ran for city council and I lost. And then in 2018, I ran for re-election for city treasurer and I won with about 70% of the vote. And I served as city treasurer for 7 years until I ultimately won my election to the city council in 2020.
Then what do you think was your biggest contribution as a city treasurer?
I was able to really help the city invest its finances in a smart and responsible way. So prior to myself, the city wasn't really doing anything with its reserves. Everything was just kind of sat in checking accounts and money market accounts, not really earning any kind of money. The previous treasurer, he didn't really understand investments well, so he didn't really direct those monies to go anywhere. And then the rest of the staff, their expertise wasn't investments. Our finance director, uh, their expertise was accounting. Was putting together budgets and accounting for the money that as it came in, but not in investments. And I had worked in investments as an investment advisor for, I don't know, probably 15 years at that point. I've picked up 5 investment licenses over the years, including my Series 7. And so, investing money was very, very comfortable for me and something I was very familiar with. And then I started to educate myself on how to be a successful city treasurer. So I started going to all the conferences and taking the different workshops and understanding what the rules were and what they weren't. And that gave me a great foundation of understanding of what I needed to do. So from there, like I put together our new investment policy for the city, which really outlined those rules and regulations for the city of what would be the city's priorities in terms of investing the money in and how we would do that. And then from there, it wasn't really until after I won my reelection and people really saw that, I guess, and this is where kind of traditional politics come into play. People saw that I wasn't going anywhere anytime soon, that, that the people really wanted me to be there. Did the city council and the city attorney not the city attorney, excuse me, the city council and the city manager at the time finally allow me to implement my knowledge in terms of how to invest the city's finances. And I put together, I think, a very smart, very responsible strategy for investing the city's finances. And it took our returns from $30,000 a year to $500,000 a year overnight.
Wow.
And at the same time, I want to look at our banking practices and renegotiated our banking fees with our previous banking partner, Bank of America, slashed those fees by about $30,000 to $50,000 per year. That ultimately was a driver behind the city doing a request for proposal to find a new banking partner. And then we found a new banking partner that wasn't charging us any fees. And so now ultimately it saves the city about $100,000 a year in fees that we were paying for 20 years prior to me coming onto the city. And so it's a great example of, subject matter expertise does matter, does make a difference. Like people can have the best of intentions, but if they're just not educated in a particular area, there's only so much they can do in that area.
That's pretty good. So your focus mainly is the economical growth of the city. Is that correct? Or what else do you have in mind?
Absolutely. Well, especially as I kind of pursue a campaign for mayor, one of the top areas of focus of my campaign are, of what I plan to do as Hawthorne's next mayor is to help spur economic development in the city of Hawthorne, and which really looks like bringing businesses to the city of Hawthorne. I think there's some ways I can continue to help in how we handle the money that comes in. I did a lot of that work as council member and changed the way our finance department operates and did some separation of duties there to provide greater kind of a safety in how our finances are handled and accountability. Made some changes in how we budget our finances as a council member. And so the internal, how we handle our money, I think I've done a lot to really support our city in that respect. And it's shown in seeing how our cash balance has grown over the years dramatically. From when I first became city treasurer, we had maybe a $5 million cash balance. We were close to bankruptcy. So now we have maybe a $95 million cash balance. And I think my contribution to how we handle our finances has contributed to that. That's not the sole reason why we've had so much money, but it's definitely contributed to that. But now where we're at in our city is we need to diversify our tax base. We need to bring more businesses into the community for 2 reasons. One, we need to give our residents places to spend money and have a good time and enjoy themselves within our city. But 2, we need to have a steady stream of tax revenue coming into the city. So again, we have the resources to take care of our community. So my biggest concern is that our residents are taken care of, that we have clean streets, we have safe streets, we have parks that our kids love to play in. We have a thriving community center with a lot of programs, and we have like places to have fun within our city. And the one of the mechanisms to make that happen is we need some economic growth. We need business growth. We need to bring in some companies that will provide jobs, that will provide great experiences, and that will provide tax revenue so we can have the money to take care of our community.
So those businesses, how those businesses will change the landscape of the city. So you said for people to enjoy and be able to just spend the time in the city rather than going out of the city and spending their money somewhere else. So how would
Yes.
that look like?
Mostly, it would start down our main corridors, down Hawthorne Boulevard, even down Crenshaw Boulevard. Our main corridors where people touch our city or driving through our city. We want to have it to look alive and have a bustling streets and inviting businesses and opportunities to stop and have some coffee or have some lunch and have some dinner, to be able to kind of take walks down these main streets and just enjoy the public art and the trees and the scenery and each other. And we want to have opportunities for our residents to leave their car at home and just walk to the corner, walk to the nearest major street, and kind of just enjoy their Saturday afternoon, enjoy their sunny afternoon, and spend time with their neighbors and make some new friends, and just kind of sit back out on a patio and enjoy a latte or enjoy some juice and really enjoy the community. And we want to
So
be able to attract people from outside our community into our community and say, hey, this is a great place to be, a great place to spend some money, and a great place to enjoy our family.
wouldn't these kind of changes, would that bring also another not so good type of people to the city?
Uh,
And is any plan to figure that out? Because the more people concentrated in the city, the more security issues. And then how are you supported by the chief of police or the police in the city?
So I'm definitely on the same page with our chief of police in terms of having a community policing model. Hawthorne's approach to public safety has changed a lot over the years. Of course, as we bring more people into our city, more business into our city, we want to make sure everybody feels safe and that everybody feels secure to be out here and spend money. And so we may need to increase our police force proportionately. But of course, we'll have the finances to do so as we're bringing in more money from these businesses, where I can pay for better salaries and even more police personnel to support kind of the safety aspect in our community. But one thing I do appreciate about our police department is how it's grown over the years. I spent a lot of time in the city of Hawthorne as a teen. My favorite cousin growing up as a kid lived in Hawthorne, and I would spend a lot of time here. Our moms are really close, and so I'd be here in Hawthorne all the time as a kid and spend nights and all that stuff. And we'd go to the Hawthorne Mall when the Hawthorne Mall was open. And at that time, though, I also experienced a lot of discrimination from the Hawthorne police. I had been pulled over many times just walking down the street innocently and searched and accused of this or that. And I think one time I was taken into the police department, to the police station, and cited for a curfew violation because there was a curfew at 10 p.m. at the time, and me and my cousin had saw some cop cars running down the street chasing after somebody. It was probably like 9 o'clock. And as we saw it was happening too far away from us to understand what was happening, we started to walk back to his apartment. Cops stopped us, questioned us, searched us, sat us down. More cops came and questioned us, searched us. And after about an hour or so of them doing that, and they realized we had nothing to do with whatever they were up to, one officer said, hey, we'll probably let you go. Another officer said, no, we're not. And they took us in for a curfew violation after they're the reason why we had violated the curfew. And it took in some young women that was across the street watching us being harassed. But it was a really crazy experience in my youth. I've gotten pulled over driving through Hawthorne many a times. and question whose car I was driving.
Hmm.
And after I can prove that was my car, I just sent on my way. And so today, I believe our police are much different. We might have some officers on our force that probably are still from that era, but our current chief, though, he has a remarkable way of looking at things and a belief of community policing where our police department is building relationships with the community and with our youth. I actually worked with our police department to put together a basketball clinic to have the youth come in and participate, and it's kind of supported by and coached by our police officers so they can kind of see each other as regular people and build relationships with each other. And so I definitely support that motto. We have an initiative that's worldwide now, but initiated in Hawthorne called Coffee with a Cop, where the police officers will set up and have coffee, give out free coffee at the local coffee shops around the city, just to kind of get to know each other, get to know the community. And so I definitely support our chief in his approach to policing our community. And I definitely feel that even now our community could benefit from having kind of a greater of a presence of this friendly police enforcement and this relationship driven police kind of enforcement throughout the community to really keep the bad element out and make sure our residents feel good.
Well, that's pretty good. So let's say you're elected on November. How long is the period of
So I'll be elected
4 years?
to a 4-year term. Absolutely.
Okay, 4-year term. Let's say it's 2028 right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So at the same time, it's kind of impossible to know what are the things that you're going to be doing and what things actually can be done. But if we don't declare the things that we want to do, then we will never try to implement anything.
One of the benefits of being on the city council for 4 years and a treasurer before, I definitely understand how long it takes for stuff to happen within a city, right? Government definitely moves slow, but I definitely understand the process for bringing development or bringing business into our city. And 4 years is definitely more than enough time for Hawthorne to bring some great development, some affordable housing, some for sale housing in our community, and also bring some new businesses in our community. There's no reason why 4 years from now I wouldn't be able to point to some new businesses that have come into Hawthorne and some great housing opportunities that have come into our city, because the city does impact the speed at which these different things happen in our city. And one of the first things that needs to happen is there needs to be a spirit of our doors are open for business and open for development. Once that's kind of declared out into the community, out into the world, there'll be a lot of companies that will have a desire to come to our city. There's already no shortage of companies that want to come to our city. There's no shortage of developers that want to develop great projects in our city. Unfortunately, they don't feel welcome. They've been told no. And right now, it takes longer than it should to get your building and plans, your building permits issued, your plans approved for any kind of development and construction. It takes longer than it should for those things to get approved. And the current leadership has made it very clear that they'll make it hard for many businesses to come into our city. So we have companies like Kaiser that have been trying to come into our city for decades. They've tried many a times to come and open up, and they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in their attempts, and they've been shooed away from our city. As well as a number of other developers that want to bring some great opportunities to our city. So a couple of things that can happen. One is expediting the process of getting plans and permits approved. But two is passing ordinances or laws that give certain projects or certain business types the pre-authorization to come in and do business. When a city kind of has laws that prevent a lot of different things from happening, then those businesses have to come before the council and ask for a zoning change or some type of variant, some type of conditional use permit. And now it allows the process to be held up and allows the city council to to slow down the process or stop them from coming. And so a lot of these operators, a lot of these businesses have chosen not to pursue those opportunities in Hawthorne, meaning like if they need to come and ask for some type of change, some type of extra permission, some type of variance or zoning change, then they just won't even come and pursue that. So one of these we can do is already make some of these zoning changes, some of these ordinance changes that give kind of a pre-authorization for certain type of projects to come to our city and certain type of businesses to come to our city. That way they don't feel like they're as beholden to the council to, you know, I don't know, do whatever to get them to agree. They already have by right the opportunity to go build some townhomes or to operate in our business or within our city boundaries. So there's a lot of things that we can do in the first year that make our city business friendly and make it easy to operate in our city. But additionally, just having that spirit of, hey, we want you here. We're welcome here. We're willing to find solutions to make it make sense for this business economically, or find the right location for you to operate in. It takes, it takes maybe a year or two for a new housing development to go up, but it only takes months for a new business to open up in the city.
Very good. And well, obviously, this plan is going to bring money to the city in many different ways. What is your vision or your plan for the youth of Hawthorne?
So that's a valuable question, because I believe like the way that we fight crime is by investing in our youth. Right? We invest in early education. We invest in after school programs. We give them job training opportunities, and we even have education or job training opportunities for those that are not young as well, right? That need a new career path to pursue. So those are things that I plan to do, because we want to make sure we have a thriving community from the inside, not need people from the outside to come in our community to make it thrive. We want to make sure our youth are being able to live the life that they want to live, right, and have options. So that's means creating partnerships with our school districts, means having job training programs that we offer to our youth, that we bring some of our trades in, some of the unions in that provide opportunities to get into the skilled trades, like the carpenters union or become an electrician within our city. And of course, that also means investing in our green space, making sure that there are parks to play in, and there's programming, there's activities at these parks, whether it be how to learn how to skateboard, or greater availability of our skate park, or maybe even more skate parks. And so that is how we invest in the future of the city, is invest in our youth. And it's something that I think a lot of the answers will come from a robust conversation with our school districts and our school boards. One of the things I've learned a long time ago is that I don't know everything about everything. But the way for us to move forward successfully is using teamwork, is really soliciting subject matter expertise, right, to help you to find the right solutions. And so when it comes to really focusing on our youth, the answers definitely will come from a good partnership with our school districts and our different school boards that operate within the city of Hawthorne.
And you recently, kind of finishing up with this, is like you recently got your doctorate in business psychology, or?
Yeah, that's correct.
And how would that support you in this endeavor?
I don't know if my PhD helps me with being the next mayor. I have a passion for business and a passion for economic development, and I would always pursue partnerships and relationships that will support this happening in the city of Hawthorne, and always pursue education in those areas, whether it be formally or informally. One thing, to really be honest, as mayor, it's still a part-time elected position in the city of Hawthorne. What's required of the leadership is to support policies and initiatives, but it's our staff members that do all the hard work, right? That was going to work with the different businesses that make things happen, or employ some consultants that are going to support us in making things happen. So I hope my PhD in business psychology is not needed on a day-to-day basis in City Hall, because my plan is to empower our staff to go out and be great and be and take care of our city. I pursue my PhD in business psychology just because of my own passion for learning, my own passion for business, and I have a desire to teach in the future. I would love to teach on university level, and hope to help the next generation of business leaders be great within our community and within the world. And so, to be honest with you, that was definitely a very thing that I pursued selfishly, because I just wanted to learn and wanted to pursue my knowledge in that area. And if that type of expertise is needed at City Hall, I'll be more than excited to deliver it, to contribute. But my vision is to bring consensus amongst the city council members that, hey, we're going to be a business friendly city, and we're going to support our staff in taking care of the community. And we really are planning on, I guess, using what I've learned in getting my master's in organizational development, as well as this PhD in business psychology, to support our leaders within City Hall and support our staff members, and to invest in them to make them as successful as they can be, and to support them in taking care of the community.
Well, David, I'm very excited about what you're going to do when you get elected mayor, because I know your heart, I know your dedication, and things need to change. We need to get good news, some kind of good news, and maybe create somehow a different way of leading people and actually doing what it is supposed to be, which is serving the public, the same public that will cast their vote for you. They hiring you as their servant. So I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. When I've been going out into the community and meeting different community members, knocking on doors, and just asking about what's important to my neighbors and what they want to see happen in the city and see happen in City Hall. Some people, they they're kind of angry, right? They don't feel heard a lot of times. They don't feel like all their needs are being met. And so they'll fire a lot of different complaints at me. And then after they complain, they kind of apologize. And I tell them, like, there's no need to apologize. Like, this is what I am here for. Like, these are the conversations I'm excited to have. Like, let me know, how can we make this community better for all of us? Because just that in itself makes me feel proud to be able to contribute in that area of making our community better. So, I'm excited to hear that feedback from people, and excited to be in a position to have it go from, hey, I wish we would have speed humps on our street, to actually there being speed bumps in somebody's street. I love being a mechanism to support that. So I'm excited about this opportunity, and I can't wait.
That's pretty good, and people know. I mean, is participate in the dialogue, participate with voting.
Absolutely.
And again, what makes me excited about you is that you're a person who listens, who cares, and well, wishing you the best. And hopefully, we're gonna have a new mayor for the city of Hawthorne. That'll be very exciting.
Thank you. I appreciate it.